Imagine the purest, most innocent thing in the universe, a baby's first word, a moment that all parents await with bated breath. They are ready to hear mama, dada, maybe something funny like gimme. But what if that word was a date, an exact date, the day when everything we know would cease to exist? This is not a Hollywood movie script. This is a story that could have begun in any living room, in any family, in your family. A child spoke her first word, and it was the exact date of the end of the world. Hello. We live in a world that we think we understand. We measure time. Seconds add up to minutes, minutes to hours, hours to years. For us, time is a straight line leading from the past to the future. But what if it's not? What if the most innocent among us, one who doesn't yet know the concept of time, turns out to be its master? This story is not just about a prophecy. It's about a person, about a little girl who became the center of the greatest paradox in human history. She is the point where love and fear, science and mysticism, the beginning and the end, converged. We will break down this incredible story piece by piece. We will look into her parents' eyes, try to understand the scientists who struggled with this mystery, and feel the cold sweat of panic that gripped the entire world. This is a journey to the very edge of understanding, and to ensure you don't miss a single detail of this and other no less captivating investigations, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and have rung the bell. The truth you will learn today may forever change your view of reality. The universe consists of a countless number of moments. Most of them are erased from memory, like words written in the sand. But there are moments that become fulcrums, dividing life into before and after. For Alex and Sarah, such a moment began in the most ordinary, most beautiful way. The golden light of a floor lamp carved an island of warmth out of the living room's twilight. A few bright children's toys were scattered on the soft, plush carpet. Outside the window stretched the calm, serene night of an ordinary suburb. Work, deadlines, city traffic, all of it was left beyond their doorstep. Here, on this carpet, their world shrank to the size of a single room, and at the center of this world sat their 10-month-old daughter, Lily, their quiet harbor. She was intently studying a bright plastic block, occasionally lifting her huge, clear eyes to her parents. Like all parents on the planet, Alex and Sarah were living in anticipation of a miracle. The miracle of a first word. Dada, Alex cooed softly and playfully, leaning towards his daughter. Come on, Lily, say dada. Sarah nudged him gently in the shoulder, laughing. Don't even hope for it. The first word is always mama. It's a law of nature, right, sweetie? Mama. This was their little ritual, full of tenderness and playful rivalry. Lily, in response, only babbled something in her own language and giggled infectiously when her mother tickled her tummy. This laughter was the most beautiful music in the universe to them. Wanting to preserve this moment forever, this feeling of absolute, undiluted happiness, Alex reached for his phone. He had no idea that the camera was about to capture something entirely different. It was in that second that the familiar rhythm of the evening was broken, as if someone had pressed an invisible pause button. Lily stopped laughing. Her hand, reaching for the block, froze in midair. The toy fell to the carpet with a soft thud. She slowly raised her head, and her gaze changed. The childish serenity was gone. It became surprisingly focused, deep and meaningful, as if an ancient soul had awakened for a moment inside the infant's body. She didn't look at Alex or Sarah. She looked through them, through the wall of their house, into an infinite void. The silence in the room became dense, ringing. It pressed on their ears. And in that absolute silence, her voice was heard. It was as clear as the ringing of a small bell, but it had no childish intonations. It was a statement of fact. February 27th, 2035. 2 phrases, 5 words, spoken with mechanical precision. A second passed, then 2, and the illusion vanished. Lily blinked. The focus in her eyes became childish again. She saw the fallen block, gurgled happily, and reached for it as if nothing had happened. She was an ordinary baby again. But for Alex and Sarah, the world would never be the same. Alex's fingers loosened and the phone slowly lowered to the carpet. The smile on Sarah's face froze, turning into a mask of shock. She slowly turned her head to her husband. He looked at her. In their eyes swam the same silent question, "Did you hear that too?" The laughter caught in their throats, turning into a lump of ice. This was not like a random collection of sounds their tired minds had assembled into a coherent phrase. They both knew they had heard the same thing, absolutely clearly. In that second, it wasn't just a crack that formed in their cozy, safe world. It was the sound of reality's vacuum seal breaking, letting in the cold, airless terror of the unknown. The first reaction was not a scream, but a deafening silence. They remained motionless, 2 statues on the living room floor, while their daughter, as if nothing had happened, reached for her toys again. The world narrowed to the sound of their own heartbeats. Then, as if on a silent command, they rose and mechanically, like sleepwalkers, went through the familiar ritual of putting their child to bed. Every movement, a diaper change, a lullaby, a soft kiss on the forehead, was steeped in surreal horror. That night was endless. Lying in bed, separated by an invisible chasm of fear, they did not sleep. Every rustle in the house, every quiet breath from Lily in the next room echoed her words in their minds. Sleep was a distant country they could not reach. The next morning, the sun piercing through the blinds seemed brazen and inappropriate. They met in the kitchen, trying to avoid each other's gaze, and attempted to build a fragile fortress of normalcy. The clink of a spoon against a ceramic mug sounded like a gunshot in the tense silence. "Babies make strange sounds," Alex finally said, his voice too loud. He stared into his coffee cup as if searching for answers there. "It's just an acoustic anomaly, a coincidence." "Yes," Sarah immediately agreed, clinging to his words like a life raft. "Exactly. We're just too tired, so we imagined it. Sleepless nights, stress at work, the brain can play tricks." They repeated these mantras all day, convincing not so much each other as themselves. They surrounded Lily with toys, desperately hoping, holding out a teddy bear, then a rattle. "Say bear, sweetie. Say gimme." They tried to get her to repeat anything at all, as long as it was a normal, childish word. But Lily only cooed and laughed like any other baby her age, unwittingly mocking their secret panic with her absolute innocence. But the seed of doubt, planted the previous evening, had already taken deep root. By evening, the fragile fortress of denial had crumbled. At night, doubt grew into nightmares. The date spoken by their daughter buzzed in their minds like a persistent fly. February 27th, 2035. Why that date? What did it mean? And why was their child, their innocent, beloved Lily, its messenger? When the wall of denial finally crumbled, leaving only the bare ruins of fear, Alex and Sarah knew they had to act. To sit idly by while an invisible bomb ticked at the very center of their lives was unbearable. Their first foray was into the world of logic and medicine. In the sterile white pediatrician's office, under the fluorescent lights, their story sounded strange and out of place. They told it haltingly, showed the video on the phone, and the doctor, an elderly, tired man, looked at them with polite sympathy. He smiled kindly, assuring them that it was a unique but likely random case of sound imitation, a phenomenon science had not yet fully explained. The next stop, a child psychologist's office, brought no more relief. They were told about forms of early genius, about acoustic coincidences amplified by parental stress and sleep deprivation. Science gave them convenient, non-committal answers, but they were utterly unconvincing. It offered them a pill for their fear, but refused to acknowledge the existence of the disease itself. Then their paths diverged. Alex, an engineer, sought salvation in a world where everything is governed by laws and formulas. Night after night, he sat before the glowing monitor screen, diving down the rabbit hole of theoretical physics. His search history was filled with theories of non-linear time, articles on quantum entanglement, and hypotheses that information could leak from the future into the past. Could a child's brain, that blank slate, not yet burdened by our linear perceptions of reality, have accidentally caught such a signal? It sounded like science fiction, but to his rational mind, it was preferable to the thought of the supernatural. But Sarah, following her intuition, turned to another side of knowledge, to a wisdom older than science. She spent hours in the silence of libraries and on the pages of internet forums dedicated to history, mythology, and religion. And what she found was even more frightening than Alex's wildest theories. In almost every culture, every belief system, she found legends of child prophets, of pure vessels through which gods or fate itself spoke. From the Oracle of Delphi to prophecies in sacred texts, the idea that truth could be revealed through the innocent was as old as time. Her findings didn't provide answers, but they confirmed her greatest fear. What had happened was real. They found themselves at a crossroads. On one side, the cold skepticism of science, offering logical but empty explanations. On the other, the blood-chilling mystical traditions that sounded all too plausible. Neither path gave them peace. Only one thing was clear. Their daughter, Lily, was not just a child. She was an anomaly. She was a paradox in the flesh.
They decided to keep their secret. For almost a year, they lived with this knowledge, creating a cocoon of normalcy around Lily, protecting her from the shadow she herself had cast. But in the modern world, nothing stays secret for long. The wall of silence they had built was brought down not by malice, but by desperation. Sarah, exhausted by loneliness and fear, one sleepless evening shared the story in the video on a private online forum for new mothers. She wasn't seeking fame, but understanding, hoping to find someone, anyone, who had experienced something similar. It was a mistake. Someone on the forum, recognizing a sensation in the story, leaked the video to journalists, and then all hell broke loose. Overnight, their lives turned into a reality show in which they were the unwilling stars. The video went viral, spreading across the internet like wildfire. At first, it was entertainment portals and paranormal blogs, but soon major media outlets joined in. The story had all the elements of a perfect storm: an innocent child, a terrifying prophecy, a mystery captured on video. Their house was besieged. Satellite dishes of news vans sprouted on their front lawn. Their windows became targets for hundreds of camera lenses. The neighbors they had greeted yesterday now looked at them with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and judgment. Veritable wars broke out online. Some called Alex and Sarah clever frauds seeking fame, dissecting the video under a microscope to prove it was a fake. Others saw Lily as a new messiah, a savior, or conversely, a harbinger of the apocalypse. Entire cults emerged, the followers of Lily, who began to interpret her prophecy in their own way, finding hidden meanings within it. Alex and Sarah's personal family nightmare broke out, was dissected and put on public display, becoming a global phenomenon. They tried to hide, to protect their daughter, but it was too late. The world had sunk its teeth into their story, because it touched upon the deepest, most primal fear of every human being, the fear of the unknown, the fear that our time could suddenly end. And now, that fear had a specific date, named by a child. Time flowed on, carrying her infancy with it. The years passed. Lily grew, and to her parents' quiet horror, her memory held no trace of that evening. She didn't remember her first fateful word. She was an ordinary girl, bright, cheerful, loving, with perpetually scraped knees and an infectious laugh. But the world around her was not ordinary. She didn't understand why strangers on the street stared at her so oddly, why kids at school either avoided her or tried to pry some secret from her, why her parents had to constantly move, changing cities like gloves. Alex and Sarah did everything in their power to create an island of normalcy for her in an ocean of collective madness, but the world did not want to forget. It was waiting. And the closer the date approached, February 27, 2035, the more intense the global hysteria became. It seeped into every sphere of life. Stock markets were feverish with rumors and panic selling. People quit prestigious jobs to go on pilgrimages, spent all their savings on round-the-world trips, trying to live before it was too late. Others, conversely, dug into the earth with feverish determination, building bunkers, buying up canned goods, seeds, and weapons. Science, having cast aside its initial skepticism, turned into a global early warning system. Scientists around the world searched for any conceivable threat, a killer asteroid, an anomalous solar flare, signs of an impending geomagnetic reversal. But the sky was clear. The universe remained stubbornly silent. Lily herself, unwittingly, became the most famous and loneliest girl on the planet. They tried to study her, they worshipped her, they hated her. To some, she was a symbol of hope, a living proof that there was something more beyond our understanding. To others, she was a scapegoat, the cause of the world's chaos. And to Alex and Sarah, she remained simply their daughter, their little girl whom they desperately tried to protect from a world driven mad by a single word spoken many years ago. The countdown was relentless. Years turned into months, months into weeks, weeks into days. And so the entire world, holding its breath, awaited the arrival of that day, the day foretold by a child. And then the day came. The morning of February 27, 2035 was the quietest in human history. Local wars ceased, factory conveyors stopped, traffic on the usually bustling streets of megacities came to a standstill. The world held its breath. News channels around the globe broadcast continuously silence. Cameras showed empty squares, calm seas, motionless clouds. Scientists in observatories and laboratories stared at their monitors, finding nothing outside the statistical norm. Religious leaders prayed with their congregations in overflowing temples, mosques, and synagogues. Billions of people, locked in their homes or gathered together, simply waited. What did they expect to see? A ball of fire from the sky? The earth giving way beneath their feet? A blinding flash of light that would be the last thing they saw? No one knew, but everyone was prepared for the worst. Noon passed. Evening came. Time zones, one by one, crossed the fateful midnight threshold, and nothing. Absolutely nothing happened. No flashes, no cataclysms, no divine intervention. The sun set just as it had the day before. The stars sprinkled the night sky just as they always had. When midnight struck in the last time zone, somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the world exhaled. It was a collective, global sigh of relief, mixed with a strange, almost palpable taste of disappointment, bewilderment. Decades of panic, anticipation, preparation, and fear had ended in nothing. The prophecy had not come true. The child had been wrong. So what was it? The greatest mass hysteria in history based on a random coincidence? Or something more? Scientists and theologians still argue about it to this day. Some say that humanity, having received a timely warning, changed its ways and thereby canceled the catastrophe. Others believe it was the greatest social experiment, vividly demonstrating how fragile our world is and how easily it can be manipulated by appealing to deep-seated fears. But perhaps the answer is much simpler and at the same time more profound. Many years later, when the scars on the world had faded and the story itself had turned into a half-forgotten legend, Lily, now a grown woman, sat with her aging parents on the porch of their quiet home. She asked them what her real first word was, not the one the whole world had heard and twisted, but the very, very first one. Alex and Sarah looked at each other, and their faces lit up with a smile full of tenderness and old, long-overcome pain. It turns out that on that distant evening, after that fateful date, in the ringing silence that followed while they sat paralyzed by shock, Lily had said something else. A word they had barely heard in their horror, and which the sensitive microphone of the phone had failed to capture, but they remembered it for the rest of their lives. That word was Mama. Perhaps this whole story was not about the end of the world, but about what we risk missing when we focus entirely on the fear of the future. We stare at the frightening date, at the prediction, at the paradox, and fail to notice the greatest miracle happening right here and right now. The miracle of love, the miracle of family, the miracle of a simple human word. Perhaps the universe, through its most innocent messenger, simply wanted to remind us, don't wait for the end of the world to start appreciating your life. Your time is now. Thank you for watching. Be kind to one another.